Welcome. This is our session on behavioral science and peer-to-peer informed migration decisions. My name is Alexandra Schern, and I'm a project officer with the IOM in our awareness raising unit in the Western Central Africa regional office. So our unit here was established in 2019 by a group of people with expertise in social and behavioral change and creative content production. We use participatory and evidence-based approaches to support young people in Western Central Africa in making informed migration decisions. So today I'll be speaking in English, but you can change the language between English and French at any time using the interpretation feature at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So please feel free to follow our session in whichever language you feel comfortable. I was speaking in English, but there will be some parts of the session in French. Please also feel free to use the chat function, and we'll have a section on questions and answers, Q&A later, but you're welcome to ask questions at any point using the chat function of Zoom. So I'll start sharing my screen. Can you see my screen with a yellow presentation?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll start off with a question. Why behavioral science and migration? Maybe I'll just turn off my video while I'm presenting the slides to improve the connection for some people. So migration is a relatively new field for behavioral science. It is, however, a field with a great deal of potential to leverage behavioral insights. People all over the world make decisions about migration every day, whether to travel, where to, and how to do it. Behavioral science can improve the outcomes of people choosing to travel or not, and ensure that decisions are made on complete and accurate information. So why does this matter? More than 20,000 migrants have lost their lives between this region and Europe since 2014, according to IOM's Missing Migrants project. All these figures are underestimates because data is hard to collect and to analyze. But what we know is that each of these numbers represents a person, as well as a family and a community that they leave behind. So research by IOM shows that people often embark on their journeys without accurate or complete information. So they may be unknowingly putting their lives at risk. Migration is also a big business for people smugglers who spread misinformation and exploit people for monetary gain. So today we're among people who are familiar with behavioral science. I probably don't need to stress the point that what we know, what we think, and what we do are not always aligned. Sometimes people do have awareness of the risks and go ahead with dangerous journeys anyway. So in light of this, in our unit, we try to go beyond awareness raising, and we empower young people to make informed migration decisions and ultimately change their behaviors for positive outcomes, bringing others along with them for the journey. You can see on the screen here that this is a step-by-step journey. And to facilitate it, we try to understand what the enablers that assist people in choosing regular migration are, and what some of the barriers that block them from choosing safe migration routes or local opportunities could be. Today, in this session, we'll be sharing some insights from the work of the Awareness Raising Unit at IOM's West and Central Africa Regional Office. So several projects within IOM leverage behavioral insights, especially social and behavioral change campaigns, which focus on empowering young people with a desire or a plan to migrate in the future to make informed migration-related decisions. The initiatives designed to raise awareness of the potential risks of irregular migration and safe alternatives have attracted much attention and investment across the world in recent years. So in response, these campaigns have increased in number, and the type, the format, and the messages and strategies of these campaigns have diversified. Such strategies have included countering misinformation, sharing first-hand testimonies, and peer-to-peer engagement, as well as other strategies. At the center of the unit's approach is a focus on learning. More than 30,000 people have participated in research to support our design and our activities. This includes user testing of innovative platforms and large-scale evaluations. Findings so far show positive shifts in knowledge, attitude, and crucially intended practices with regards to regular migration. So I'm now going to hand over to my colleague, Umari Hebi, who works at IOM's Global Migration Data Analysis Center, GMDAC, and he's been working on impact evaluation studies for IOM's awareness-raising activities. Over to you, Umari.
Merci Alex. Bonjour, bonsoir à toutes et à tous, en fonction de là où vous êtes dans le monde. Alors, chez nous, à l'OIM, la démarche de la science comportementale est incluse dans les projets de sensibilisation que nous conduisons depuis quelque temps. Notre pratique de la science comportementale suit à peu près la méthodologie classique pour le déploiement de la science comportementale. Et cette méthodologie, peut-être que certains d'entre vous le savent, a 4 grands piliers. Le premier, premièrement, il s'agit d'identifier et de définir les problèmes. Et nous identifions et définissons les problèmes et les communautés affectées par ces problèmes. Comme exemple, nous avons le projet Migrants comme messager, dans lequel nous avons identifié 2 gros problèmes qui nécessitaient solution. Le premier de ces problèmes, c'est que la migration irrégulière vers l'Europe commençait à prendre une tendance croissante avec des témoignages douloureux des migrants de retour et de migrants secourus. Et le problème numéro 2 était qu'il y avait une dose importante de mésinformation, de sous-information dans ces drames liés à la migration irrégulière. Diapo, s'il te plaît. Slide, s'il te plaît, Alex. Une dose importante, donc je disais, de mésinformation et de sous-information dans ces drames liés à la migration irrégulière, mais pas seulement. Deuxièmement, donc le deuxième gros pilier donc, de la méthodologie, c'est que nous faisons un diagnostic du comportement à changer. On peut passer à la slide suivante, s'il vous plaît. Alex. Deuxièmement, nous faisons donc un diagnostic du comportement à changer. Ici, la migration irrégulière. Donc, en termes d'information, il y a une forte... le diagnostic que nous faisons, c'est qu'en termes d'information, il y a une forte croyance aux réseaux locaux. La slide. Ou peut-être que je partage, à mon niveau, je partage. Ah, voilà, parfait. Donc, nous faisons donc un diagnostic du comportement à changer. Ici, c'est la migration irrégulière. Et le diagnostic, principalement pour, par exemple, les problèmes que nous avons identifiés dans le cadre du projet Migrants comme messager, c'est qu'en termes d'information, il y a une forte croyance aux réseaux locaux de proximité. Et ensuite, en termes de communication, la communication institutionnelle est inopérante. Le troisième grand pilier dans la démarche de la science comportementale, c'est de développer des solutions et de tester ces solutions. Et nous le faisons à l'OIM. Nous développons des solutions très précises. Comme exemple, on peut citer toujours les projets phares que nous avons. Hein. Le projet Migrants comme messager, qui, pour répondre aux problèmes de mésinformation, de désinformation et d'inopération des démarches des communications institutionnelles, s'appuie sur les migrants de retour pour sensibiliser les communautés sur les risques associés à la migration irrégulière. Nous avons également le projet Iomx, qui a une réponse qui vise à encourager les campagnes communautaires de sensibilisation utilisant le C4, la communication pour le développement, pour permettre aux cibles de prendre des décisions migratoires éclairées. Et évidemment, au-delà de développer des solutions, nous testons ces solutions pour voir si elles marchent. Pour preuve, nous avons conduit d'abord une revue systématique de l'évaluation des campagnes de sensibilisation dans le domaine de la migration. Ensuite, depuis quelques années, nous avons conduit plusieurs études expérimentales, une étude expérimentale et quasi-expérimentale pour tester de nouvelles approches. Nous avons fait un randomized control trial, un essai randomisé contrôlé à Dakar en 2018, nous avons fait un essai randomisé contrôlé de type groupe, donc en anglais le cluster randomized control trial, qui était beaucoup moins contrôlé et un peu plus réaliste qui est en cours actuellement donc, dans 4 pays d'Afrique de l'Ouest. Nous avons également testé l'efficacité d'utiliser WhatsApp pour mesurer le comportement migratoire et nous avons également testé l'efficacité des campagnes que nous menons sur Facebook. Et nous menons beaucoup d'études CAP, connaissances, attitudes, pratiques, également dans le cadre de nos projets. Quatrième et dernier pilier dans la démarche de la science comportementale telle que définie par les Nations Unies, nous utilisons les résultats de nos recherches pour mieux concevoir nos projets. Et en pratique, comment ça se traduit chez nous? Par exemple, le projet Migrants comme messager a eu une phase 1 et sur la base des études que nous avons menées, nous sommes passés à la phase 2 et peut-être nous passerons à la phase 3 sur la base des études que nous menons actuellement. C'est pareil pour Iomx, dans lequel nous sommes actuellement à la 3e phase. Et bien entendu, nous continuons dans cette tendance-là, et cette tendance est appelée à se renforcer encore davantage. Donc, c'est globalement ce que nous faisons dans le cadre de la démarche de recherche utilisant la science comportementale. Je repasse la parole à Alex pour poursuivre la présentation et tout en vous remerciant pour votre attention.
Merci beaucoup, Umaru. Thank you very much. So now you've heard a little bit about why we think behavioral science is important in migration and what some of the scientific methods underpinning our activities and approaches are. So I wanted to share a little bit with you about what we do in the awareness raising unit. As you heard from Umaru just now, there is a big focus on research. We work on peer-to-peer communications, social and behavioral change communication, gender mainstreaming, digital engagement, and audiovisual production. So audiovisual production is a big part of our work, and we want to show you a very short example of the kind of work that we do in producing videos with returnees. So all of our work is participatory, and in the spirit of this, we would like you to please participate in a vote just now on which video you would like to see. I'm not going to give you too much information about each of these videos, but I'm just going to share with you the poll now. Okay, if it's going to work. Okay, we'll do the poll in the chat, if that's okay, please. So if you could put in the chat either 1, 2, or 3 for either leading the way against human trafficking, en tête contre la traite de personnes, or number 2, defying traditional gender roles, aller contre les rôles traditionnels du genre, or capoeira for well-being, la capoeira pour le bien-être. So please vote now, put in the chat 1, 2, or 3 for the video that you would like to see later in the session. Okay, so we will collect up those votes and choose the video that has the most votes to show you later in this session. Okay, so just moving on. Here you can see a few logos, and these represent some of the projects under the awareness raising unit. Morena, for example, is a mobile cinema initiative that goes to rural communities in West Africa to raise awareness among young people and potential migrants and communities about the risks of irregular migration. Compass has a website called yena.org, which shares our research findings, different learning and tools, which are all publicly available. And the idea is to support growth in the field of behavioral change. Now, Migrants as Messengers, a project that Umaru mentioned in his intervention just now, is an important project for us that's been running since 2017 in West Africa. More than 400 returned migrants have been trained as part of the project to carry out peer-to-peer communication activities. They're active in 7 West African countries, using art, theatre, music, and sport to engage young people and their communities in dialogue about migration. The campaign is really led by returning migrant volunteers who share honest accounts of their migration experiences with their communities and their families through different online, on-air, and on-the-ground channels. Really, in this project, the volunteers are the leaders of the campaign. They're at the center of the design, the planning, and the implementation of activities. And the idea is that they engage multiple audiences through different channels to create an enabling environment for behavioral change to happen. And we already talked about some of the rigorous impact evaluations that are used to assess the impact of the campaign. And we have an impact evaluation coming out later this year that hopefully you'll be able to see and check it out for yourselves. Another one of our big projects is Iomx. This is led by communities as well. And the idea is that communities produce, lead, and share campaigns that are designed to inform young people about migration, so that decisions that are made, whether to migrate or pursue local opportunities in their communities, are made using accurate and complete information. So this project, Iomx, has been through various iterations since 2014. It applies a C4D, a communication for development approach, and behavioral science principles, such as social influence and implementation prompts, to encourage young people to make migration decisions that are well-informed. So the Iomx model has been applied in different regions around the world, but in our region in West Africa, it's called Wakawel. This is a kind of tailored multimedia campaign targeting communities that's led by youth and engaged other community members. So the role of risks, as you probably know, is central to decisions, including the decision to migrate. Migration decisions are often described as weighting the benefits and the costs of potential economic gains against the risks. And we think that better awareness of the dangers of irregular migration could therefore change the equation and potentially reduce the harm and the vulnerability of migrants if they pursue perilous routes. We are, however, finding increasingly higher baseline level risk awareness about the dangers of irregular migration. This is positive because it means that information campaigns about the risks of irregular migration are being effective, but it also shows that greater understanding of the risks alone could only have a limited effect. So if there's insufficient awareness of the alternatives to irregular migration, then we don't see the desired impact that we need. In light of this, the unit's website, wakawel.info, provides clearly presented information to raise awareness on the practical alternatives to irregular migration. So what does that mean? It means that this digital platform has information about how to get a passport, how to apply for a visa for a range of different countries, or as an alternative, what the local opportunities are for education, for skills building, training, and jobs. The messaging around the platform encourages young people to take action, including to speak to someone in their local community if they want advice face-to-face on travel, jobs, education, even mental health and psychosocial support. So far, it's helped more than 150,000 young people to make informed migration-related decisions. In order to approximately assess the impact of the campaigns on behavioral change, there are surveys, like Umuru mentioned, around measuring the knowledge, attitude, and intended practices of the campaigns. So I've just got a few figures here that will show the kinds of results that we see so far. There's a 30% decrease in the number of people who think that it's not worth the cost and time to get a proper passport, and increases of 8% about knowledge on where to find accurate information on migration. Similar figures about the knowledge of migration processes. These are from different countries and different years of the campaign. So these ones that you see on the screen now are from the Gambia in 2021. Okay, so As I think you heard from Umaru and hopefully myself too, we've learned from the MAM impact evaluations, the Migrants as Messengers project, that people are generally distrustful of authorities, but do trust their peers. Peer-to-peer engagement with returnee migrants has really found to be effective. Around 20% of the people that participated in activities of the MAM project reported being less likely to intend to migrate irregularly compared with the control group who did not watch the filmed interviews used in the study. Too often, we find that traditional awareness-raising campaigns preach to the people that they're trying to influence without fully understanding or including different information needs in the community. So the Migrants as Messengers approach has a participatory focus, relying entirely on peer-to-peer communication. Another powerful outcome of the campaign that we want to share with you today is that returnee migrants, who often feel marginalized or ashamed that their attempt to migrate for a better life was thwarted, they can really struggle to resume their lives in their communities. And being part of the project helps form strong bonds with those in similar situations. Some project participants set up migrant returnee associations, and the work of these associations continues to raise awareness and advocate for migrant and returnee rights. So today I'm going to hand over to El Adama, who is one of our Migrants as Messengers volunteers. He's going to be talking about his work with the association that he works with and the work that he's done really to lead behavioral change efforts in his own community. He'll be speaking in French, so feel free to change the interpretation to the channel you would like.
Alors bonjour à tout le monde et bonsoir. Bonjour pour certains et bonsoir pour d'autres. Donc, nous sommes dans des zones différentes où le fuseau horaire est parfois décalé. Donc, je me présente, je suis El Adama Diallo, je suis migrant de retour et je suis membre du projet MAM comme volontaire depuis la première phase en 2018. Aujourd'hui, nous sommes là depuis le Sénégal pour vous parler un peu de la science comportementale, mais également quel a été notre rôle dans le projet du migrant comme messager. Avant de commencer mon allocution, je vais un peu citer un grand penseur sénégalais qui était écrivain, poète, premier président du Sénégal indépendant et grand défenseur du métissage culturel, Léopold Sédar Senghor, qui disait « Il faut s'enraciner et s'ouvrir ». Maintenant, imaginez un jeune homme déterminé qui, après avoir fait 13 ans d'études, il parvient à achever 2 années de formation en communication, mais il n'a pas les moyens pour payer sa 3e année. Pendant les vacances, il retourne au village natal et se met à cultiver son champ pour gagner de quoi payer sa 3e année. La récolte de son champ est insuffisante. Il revient à Dakar, capitale du Sénégal, devient agent de sécurité durant une année et fait quelques économies. Il met en place un multiservice de transfert d'argent, photocopie, imprimerie et s'habitue à Internet. Il s'ouvre au monde virtuel et commence à parler à des personnes qui se trouvent à l'étranger. Il est charmé par leur maison et leur habillement classe. Ces échanges le poussent à sous-estimer les revenus de sa boutique. Un jour, en cachette, il prend le chemin de la Libye pour arriver en Italie. Mais le voyage lui apprend que tout ce qui brille n'est pas de l'or. Après une douloureuse année vécue en Libye, il parvient à rentrer au bercail et recommence sa vie. Ce jeune homme, c'est moi. Malgré le regard blessant des autres, je ne suis pas resté silencieux avec mon histoire. J'ai intégré la communauté des migrants comme messager pour participer au changement de comportement des jeunes qui se trouveraient dans les mêmes situations, dans les mêmes illusions. Aujourd'hui, Internet est toujours au cœur de mon activité. Mais ce ne sont pas les photos de ratour Eiffel ou des chaussures Gucci, ni les vidéos dans des restaurants italiens que je regarde. J'accorde peu d'importance aux frères et sœurs de la diaspora qui font vivre des mirages aux jeunes au point d'oublier leur propre potentiel dans leur pays. Aujourd'hui, par mes vidéos, je partage la misère de vivre en danger dans un pays étranger et le courage de se faire une vie au Sénégal. En faisant ça, je suis parvenu à empêcher Mariam, une jeune fille lycéenne, de se faire embarquer dans un trafic de migrants au Maroc. Elle a vu mes vidéos sur les réseaux sociaux grâce au projet Migrants comme messagers. On a commencé à échanger. Elle me disait au début qu'elle avait un ami médecin qui partait au Maroc et cet ami voulait l'amener. La proposition me paraissait trop facile et douteuse. Mariam a également commencé à se poser des questions. Elle est restée et a continué ses études. Aujourd'hui, elle est enseignante de français. Ainsi, avec mes expériences de communication entre pairs, je me suis rendu compte que je ne dois pas me taire face à mon parcours migratoire. Le projet Migrants comme messager fut pour nous une turbine d'expression de nos douleurs vécues lors de nos trajets différents. Il nous a permis de voir les choses différemment, sans complexe ni complaisance. Nous avons pu libérer la parole pour nous-mêmes et pour nos pères qui étaient dans un mutisme total. Le partage d'expériences devant les communautés fut une thérapie pour les volontaires du projet MAM. Celui qui change notre comportement est la personne qui apporte une valeur ajoutée à notre vie, notre quotidien. La science comportementale est un outil qui peut laisser des traces et qui peut lutter pour des causes. Quand je partage mes témoignages, c'est ça que je fais. Je donne de mon expérience à la jeunesse sénégalaise, africaine, mais aussi sans équivoque à toute la jeunesse du monde. Merci de votre attention.
Merci beaucoup, Aladama. Thank you very much. So I hope that you enjoyed hearing that personal account of Aladama's experience. And I think it's really inspiring to hear how Aladama is now using social media as a tool to help young people like Mariam, who he mentioned, to make better migration-related decisions. So I'm going to now invite another one of the Migrants as Messengers volunteers, Ami, who is a colleague in the Gambia, who's going to talk to us about her personal account of surviving human trafficking and the work that she does now as an activist. Ami, over to you.
Good morning. My name is Ami Job from the Gambia, West Africa, a neighboring country to Senegal. I greet you all and I welcome you today to the UN Behavioral Science Week. For that being the case, I would like to share a little bit of my story connecting to the UN Behavioral Science Week. As I am a survivor of human trafficking, I have been trafficked to the Western country in the year 2014. For that being the case, when I trafficked, I was promised a job, a good living, which was all not the reality on the ground. When I reached my destination, I began to know that everything was fake and that was not the reality on the ground. For that being the case, I've gone through a lot of hardship, through a lot of difficult times, through a lot of stress moments. When I was trafficked in the country called Egypt, I spent 7 months in that country. Within that 7 months, I have worked with 3 different types of madams, I can say. That wasn't my job as a youth, because what I was told and when I reached there, what I found on the ground was different thing. And it was there that I tend to know that I was trafficked. So victims or survivors of human trafficking are deceived. They're not been telling the truth, or the truth has not been told to them. It's when they reach on the ground, they tend to know that they are trafficked. For that being the case, trafficking has different routine or different channels when it comes to human trafficking, because it's a chain walk. Before I left in Egypt, I met 3 different agents, and within these 3 different agents, they are from different countries. So that's the chain walk. Before I left also, I needed a document, which was a passport. And this passport, they intend to ask for a visa and for an air ticket, which are the means or what is necessary to travel. And the most funniest part is I did not go through the back way. I use a flight to travel. So this is a gameplay, and it has touched a lot of young women or a lot of young youths around the world. So they have been deceived and they don't know. So when I reach my country of destination, my life changed. But when I believe that that was not my destination and that was not who I am or what I intend to be in life, I decided to fight back and come back home. When I come back home, I didn't intend to keep quiet. What I did was to start the advocacy, to talk to people about human trafficking, to make them be aware of what is really going on this world. And that's where my awareness raising and awareness raising and advocacy start from. So when I begin to be, when I start to be a mom volunteer, since the project started, the peer-to-peer communication has been something really helpful and encouraging, because with the peer-to-peer communication, through the peer-to-peer communication as migrants, as messengers, it has been a great project, and the peer-to-peer communication is the best thing ever. We use the peer-to-peer communication to reach out to the potential migrants who are at risk in falling victims of trafficking. And for and also this has proven to be a success over the years, and we continue to raise awareness amongst peers when it comes to the peer-to-peer communication. And the best thing of the peer-to-peer communication is that we all, as migrants, as messengers, are victims or survivors of or returnees from different countries. And being a survivor or a returnee from different countries, we all share different stories. But in these stories, there are similarities where we can feel empathy within each other, and where we can see and make sure everybody is a useful or important person in the society. We don't allow people to look low onto us because we are migrants. With this peer-to-peer communication, it helps us in our therapy, it helps us in our mental health, it helps us in our mental being, because we make sure everything a migrant needs or a returnee needs, it's within this migrants as messengers peer-to-peer communication. For that being the case, as an activist or as an advocate for human trafficking, we haven't stopped only advocating or raising awareness in human trafficking. We go beyond irregular migration. We go beyond fighting for the rights of the women, because every survivor of human trafficking right is violated. So this is a little bit of me and my story. So I will stop here for now and wait for the questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ami. It's really inspiring to hear how you transformed a difficult experience and situation into something you can use to help other people. So thank you for sharing that. Now we can open for questions and answers. You are welcome to use the hand function or the chat, or just unmute your microphone, and please let us know who your question is directed to. If it's to Eladama from Senegal, Ami from the Gambia, Umaru in the Global Migration Data Analysis Center, or myself, or another one of your peers in the call.
Good morning, good afternoon. This is Christina Rapone from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN. Thanks for organizing this very interesting webinar. My question is around whether this program or the activities you do, they reach out also to rural areas, and what are the challenges that you you expect or that are particularly different, let's say, in rural areas, and communicating about also regular migration or return migration. We are very active in Senegal, for instance, in some rural realities, and I would like to hear more. So it's a general question directed to everyone. I would be happy to see whether your thoughts are about rural context. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Very valid question indeed. So maybe I'll start with sharing a few points, and then if anybody else wants to jump in, you're welcome to. So this region is more and more digitally connected. I just want to make that point, that we do find that the numbers of people on social networks with access to a smartphone is growing exponentially. So this means that there's a lot of potential for our digital connectivity work and social media campaigns. But we do recognize that in a lot of rural communities, there is less access to mobile phone networks, smartphones, especially among women. Rural women are less digitally connected. So in light of this, there are lots of on-the-ground activities through the MAM project. Chinemorena, which I mentioned before, which is the mobile cinema initiative, goes specifically to rural communities and sets up in the afternoon a community cinema where a film is shown in the evening, and there is a discussion before and after with the communities there. With the Iomx project, we have printed information booklets that include all the information that's available on the digital platform, Wakawel, and these are distributed through migrant information centers or migrant resource centers, as well as civil society organizations, and through different networks to young people in more rural communities, so that there can be an offline version of the information. I'll stop there. I think Eladama or Ami might want to add something.
Merci Alex. Je pense que moi, en tant que quelqu'un qui est issu du monde rural, je viens des villages et je sais combien les villages sont frappés par la migration irrégulière, parce que souvent, on le dit, par manque d'opportunités qui existent dans les villages, où c'est l'agriculture qui est vraiment le secteur principal. Et raison pour laquelle, après la saison de pluie, tous les jeunes se rabattent dans les villes. Et c'est dans ces villes-là que les jeunes commencent à changer de comportement, à avoir d'autres visions du monde. Parce que, et dans les villages, comme on me le dit, chez moi là-bas, il y a parfois la connexion, mais la connexion, elle est très faible. Si je suis là-bas, si je me rends chez moi, je trouve toutes les difficultés pour me connecter. Pour me connecter, il me faut des endroits pour vraiment avoir de la connexion. Et j'ai toujours plaidé des campagnes de sensibilisation dans les villages, prioriser les villages. Et pourquoi? Parce que l'expérience m'a montré que beaucoup de jeunes qui migrent de manière irrégulière viennent des villages. Ça, c'est l'expérience. Je l'ai vécu en Libye. Tous mes amis avec qui je vivais, c'était des villageois. Et rarement, j'ai vu de jeunes qui sont nés à Dakar et qui ont grandi à Dakar, qui sont de parents dakarois. Et donc, pour les villages, il faut vraiment prioriser les villages. Pour moi, c'est une priorité. Faire de cette sorte qu'aujourd'hui, Internet est partout. C'est un moyen qu'il faut utiliser, qui demande un peu de moyens, Je pense qu'il faut vraiment se focaliser sur les outils Internet, le digital, où actuellement tous les jeunes sont coachés, sont connectés avec une connexion de 200 ou de 500 francs, tu peux savoir ce qui se passe dans le monde. Et là, cet aspect-là, à défaut de se déplacer, de mettre sur pied une logistique très dynamique, très gigantesque, on peut utiliser vraiment les réseaux sociaux pour pouvoir vraiment atteindre un bon nombre de gens et la communauté. Après, si les jeunes sont là, ils vont véhiculer les messages à travers, à l'endroit de leurs parents. Et là, tout le monde sera des gens qui vont transporter le message pour certains. Pour moi, c'est ça. Il faut prioriser les villages. Ça sera très, 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 très important. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Aladama. Maybe, Ami, there's something that you'd like to add as well on your work in advocacy engaging rural communities for Christina's question.
Yes, so I would just add, it is important to use digital means when it comes to the rural area, but in the remote communities too, they face difficulties to get information. So which tends to be, they fall to be victims because they won't get enough source or enough information, and they wouldn't know what is really happening. So with the awareness raising, like in the rural area, it's effective because in person you get to meet them to really tell them what is the reality on the ground, what are the challenges, what they face. So it has been really successful in the Gambia here, going to the rural countries to raise awareness.
Thank you very much, Ami. So I saw Erica's hand next, and then I know there's another hand from Rula. So Erica, would you like to share your question, please?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Erica, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Yes, I said I'm a migrant as messenger volunteer from the Gambia. Okay, I would just like to, first of all, respond to the question that was asked earlier about some of our challenges that we face in the peer-to-peer communication. There are sometimes when you tend to talk to your peer group, it's kind of challenging because sometimes some will tell you it doesn't matter, it doesn't mean because you did not make it, so I can't make it. So sometimes it's difficult to convince them. Sometimes they will also ask you, what is here for me to do rather than going there? If you don't want me to go, what can you offer me to do? So these are some of the challenges that we face. And my question that I want to ask is, as we all know, Migrants as Messenger is wrapping up. So like, and still migration is taking place. There is no way we can combat it. We can only try to reduce the level of migration, but we cannot combat it. So now that Migrants as Messenger is about to wrap up, how will we continue our work in terms of like reaching out to our peer, talking to them, because like we really need to save life, because as a youth, that makes us feel happy, because when we have more youth in a society, in a community, the nation at large will benefit, because we will have people to do so many things rather than risking themselves to go out there. So what are the modalities that are put in place in order to help this sensitization to continue?
Thank you very much, Erica, for the comments and the question. I think you make some really good points, because in behavioral science, there are different biases. As you know, we humans, our minds always make shortcuts, and sometimes we look at things through a biased lens without even realizing it. There is an optimism bias, for example, where someone can think, especially young people, I think we've all had this when we've been younger, that we feel quite invincible, and we see that there are risks, things can happen to people, but we feel like it won't happen to us. So I think that hearing from people with whom young people can relate about their personal experiences and maybe how they felt before, maybe they had the same kind of optimism bias, that can be quite powerful, I think. So I would encourage you in your work on that. Is there anyone else who wants to answer on
Alex,
those
hear
points?
me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, it's Amanda. Hi, Rose. It's Amanda. Just one thing, building up on your comments. One of the challenges that she mentioned is really true and is often related to religion. So they always say even if a lot of people fail to cross or they go through various hardships, they say if it's my destiny, God will be with me. So there is this belief in God and in destiny that is still, like, despite all the information they receive about the dangers of irregular migration, it still pushes them to try their chance. So I think this is an important point to keep in mind. Is very strong culturally speaking regarding that. And Rose, replying to your question, I think we discussed this several times, and this is what we've been trying to do in each country of the project, is to reinforce the capacity of you guys and of the associations, help you to build the associations so then you can be independent and keep doing the work you've been doing so well in the last years. So this is one of the main actions that are being put in place to support the good work that you guys have been doing the last years. Thank you. I think that's all. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Amanda. Completely agree. Anything else anyone would like to add on that one? Okay.
Actually, I would like to comment about the religious belief part. Here in Jordan, this is Rula from Jordan Breast Cancer Program. We do screening programs and we raise awareness and behavior change regarding breast cancer screening and diagnosis. One of the things that we face is the religious, it's not religious rather than believing in the destiny of things happening to them. Now, we talk likely we shift their point of view about the quality of life that they will get. Cancer could happen to anyone, but we're looking at the quality of life for those who early diagnosed cancer related to or compared to those who diagnose it in late stages. This is how we dealt with the destiny part. I would like to ask you something, if it is okay. Out of our experience, we are facing too many confounding variables, too many behavioral changes that we need to work on different levels. How should I deal with it? In this case, we're talking about the beneficiaries themselves, which are the ladies who are the target population for breast cancer screening. We've gone far actually in the breast cancer screening, yet we are not even meeting half of the target we're thinking about. Because of the other thing, which is a behavior change that is needed for the service providers. What should we do to overcome this? How should we get the buy-in of service providers, decision makers to adopt an institutional system or culture, let's say, to adopt behavior change and create an enabling environment for those who are willing to do the screening or whatever behavior we're thinking about. Just by engaging the service providers. One of the obstacles for behavior change is the lack of cooperation by the service providers, whether it is on the bottom level or even as decision makers.
Thanks, Rula. Really interesting to hear how there are links between quite different sectors here, breast cancer screening in terms of health and the work that we're doing on migration, because I see that some of the challenges are pretty similar. In terms of your question, the behavioral change needed for service providers, probably you started to answer your own question to some degree, because you're talking about the barriers, understanding what the barriers are, like lack of cooperation. So I think this is really important to see what are the things blocking cooperation and blocking greater engagement. And then what are the enablers? So what are the things that could incentivize change in a positive way? This, of course, takes a lot of research, continuous engagement, and perseverance. So I'll maybe invite others to share their ideas or insights or comments on what Rula has just shared.
If I can jump in, Alex. I think you're right. This is the thing to do in such a situation. Trying to identify the drivers of the barriers to engage the service providers, and this, I think, is part of the diagnosis to do in order to understand what's going on, and this should be part of any planning process, basically. Engaging, for instance, an expert in qualitative methods who will engage with in the community with these service providers, trying to understand what undermines their engagement can be a good solution. But definitely, at least definitely, it's a good point to always try to make a good diagnostic of everything that prevent people from engaging, even if it is persons or service provider. So that should be something to do regularly. Thank you.
And sorry, it's Amanda jumping in as well. Just to complement what Omaru mentions, I think is like the basis is what he said about finding the diagnosis and understanding why they are not engaging, why they are not interested in it. But I think just feel like practical ideas that I would think of, like general capacity building with governments and the practitioners that are not engaging in or don't understand. So I think when you build their capacity, giving trainings and trying to make them to understand the importance of it, I think it's crucial. But I also think sometimes they are too far from the reality, and that's where I think this engagement with the community, with the human side of the story can be very powerful, either by creating opportunities, sort of events or meetings where those government or the people making the decision basically can engage with patients or people who've been through, I don't know, a breast cancer or something like that, so they can really exchange with those people face to face. This kind of events where you can really engage with those people who've been through it can be very powerful to help people change the way they see the situation and push them to make action. And when that's not possible, sometimes people create powerful videos with human stories where those people share what they've been through, what are the consequences of not doing those screenings and not taking care of a disease, which can be very, very mean. And then those videos can be shown to those people, and those people can engage as well. So I think there are several ways, but I really think that bringing the human side to decision makers that sometimes are a bit far from the reality, I think it can help them to push a trigger where they will go for actions which are more concrete. Yeah, over. Thank you.
I agree with you. I think Eladima wants to add something too.
Ah, merci, Alex. Moi, je pense que je voudrais revenir sur l'intervention d'Erika, notre consoeur qui se trouve en Gambie. Merci. En fait, ces barrières-là, ces difficultés, ces obstacles-là, nous les rencontrons tous partout, comme au Sénégal, partout. Les gens ont ces idées-là. Si vous nous demandez de rester, qu'est-ce que vous nous proposez? Et je pense que dans le projet MAM, notre objectif, notre mission principale, c'était vraiment d'informer juste et vrai et de partager nos expériences, de leur montrer que nous, on était victimes de cette migration. On avait cette même idée, cette même pensée avant de partir. Nos frères, nos sœurs nous disaient, il ne faut pas tenter cette voie irrégulière, mais par, je ne sais pas, entêtement ou de trop vouloir partir, de voir, parfois, on les comprend parce que les choses sont là, c'est compliqué. On est là, on veut régler quelque chose, ça ne passe pas. Et parfois, pour faire rentrer une idée dans la tête de cette personne-là, c'est très difficile au début, mais il ne faut jamais se décourager. Et je pense que c'est un long processus, c'est un travail à faire, c'est un travail de longue haleine. Il ne faut jamais se décourager. Tu peux ne pas convaincre aujourd'hui une personne. Demain, elle va se rendre compte que ce que cette personne-là vient de me dire, c'est la vérité, c'est la triste vérité. Et parfois, ils vont voir, évidemment, des gens qui sont en Europe, qui ont pris les mêmes voies ou même qui ont pris les voies normales, les voies légales, mais ils n'arrivent pas à s'en sortir en Europe. Et ça, moi, la chance que je n'avais pas avant de partir, je n'avais pas vu quelqu'un qui avait emprunté la voie irrégulière, qui vient me dire, il faut pas tester cette voie-là. Et les gens avec qui je parlais, et c'est des gens qui étaient partis par la voie irrégulière, mais qui sont arrivés à rentrer en Europe. Et là, moi, j'avais du mal à consommer leur message, de me dire, il faut rester au village, il faut rester au Sénégal. Mais après, dans mon parcours, je me suis rendu compte que ces gens-là ce sont mes vrais copains. Et parce que quand j'ai commencé à vivre les difficultés, on m'emprisonnait, on me demandait de l'argent, on me maltraitait, on me faisait travailler sans me payer. Et là, je commençais vraiment à me sentir vraiment hors de chez moi. Et là, aujourd'hui, ça m'a permis à vraiment changer de comportement. Quand je rencontre ces gens de personnes-là, je les comprends. Et je me mets à leur place quand j'étais là avant. Donc, je pense que c'est un travail, même si on parvient à changer le comportement d'une personne, et je pense que pour moi, c'est un résultat. Le problème, ce n'est pas de dire aux gens il faut rester, mais c'est leur donner la vraie information et on les laisse avec leur propre conscience de prendre leurs propres responsabilités. Merci.
Thank you very much, Aladama. So we've only got a couple more minutes left. Maybe we'll have to wrap up on the questions and answers. Feel free to use the chat function though, and we can carry on replying. So we haven't forgotten the video. Okay, yeah. My colleague is just telling me which video won the vote. It's number 2. So thank you for those who shared your votes. Hopefully you can see my screen again now. And we're going to show you that second video. So in relation to what Amanda was just saying about the human side of things, one way to really get these across is through good quality human videos. We wanted to show you this video to show an example of some of the audiovisual expertise in the unit and the volunteer network that we have. And while you're watching the video, we'd like you to maybe think about what you think the key messages are, who you think it's targeted at, and do feel free to use the chat function to share your comments and questions. Here we go.
I did construction as a living. I learned it way back in Libya, friends that I used to follow go to the construction site just for me to show off. It's really something I love doing. Though it's a job that they consider as men's job, but when a woman are doing it, it's kind of fun doing. And there are lots of energy
I think there is no sound. Huh?
Okay, so the video you just saw then was Defying Traditional Gender Roles. That is an unusual video for us because we developed it as part of our Road to Equality campaign in March, following International Women's Day. And there was a challenge put out to the volunteers in the network to share what it means to them, the road to gender equality. So we will share in the chat the link to the video because I understand that some people unfortunately couldn't get the sound of the video. I'm really sorry about that. Hopefully with the subtitles and the images of the video, you could follow a little bit anyway. But I will share the link to that video in the chat. So we're pretty much at the end, yes, of our session. It's gone quickly. I just want to share with you a couple of key messages as conclusion, and thank you all for being with us today. So the Migrants as Messengers MAM project that we've talked about a bit today, and which the two volunteers who spoke with us are part of, there'll be an impact evaluation of this project coming out later this year. That will be shared on our website, yena.org, where we have, as we mentioned, a lot of different tools and different research learnings, different resources available on behavioural change from our awareness raising unit in Western Central Africa. So I do encourage you to check out their website. And I'd like to just leave you with hopefully this message that peer-to-peer communication is really key to raising awareness and promoting behavioural change. We've found that it works. We don't know how many of the more than 20,000, 22,000 people who lost their lives trying to travel from this region to Europe. We don't know how much they knew about the dangers awaiting them, but we know that in every case, it was an underestimation, that people underestimated the huge risks along the way. Perhaps they chose to block out some of the realities, or perhaps they didn't have enough information or had a strong optimism bias. So this really shows that the work here is important. We need to work on this. And in an increasingly loud and confusing information landscape, it turns out that trust and credibility are really important, and it's those who are closest to us who have the most potential to share their experiences that can help shape our own experiences in a positive way. Audiovisual campaigns leveraging social networks have enormous potential to influence our behavior in positive ways or in negative ways, and we are working together to ensure that it is done in a positive way. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you to Ami and Eladama, Umaru, and everyone on the call.